Hi, I'm Matthew Andre Dela Cruz, and this is a book review of Ramon Guillermo's Translation and Revolution, a study of Jose Rizal's Guillermo Tell. From the title itself, it's a study. It's not a fiction. It's facts. It's actually a thesis of Ramon Guillermo regarding the work of Rizal, which is translating Schiller's work Wilhelm Tell from German to Tagalog. Guillermo Tell is the title of the Tagalog translated version of Schiller's work Wilhelm Tell. Wilhelm Tell is Wilhelm Tell, also known as William Tell in English, is a verse drama in 5 acts of German dramatist Friedrich Schiller, published and produced in 1804 as Wilhelm Tell. During the 15th century, in the Swiss canton of Uri, the legendary hero Wilhelm Tell leads the people of the forest cantons in rebellion against tyrannical Austrian rule. Sounds the same with the current situation, with the situation of the Filipinos back in the 19th century, with their tyrannical friarocracy, or the rule of the friars. Wilhelm Tell himself assassinates the corrupt Austrian governor. The play's underlying theme is the justifiability of violence in political action. As such, it could be inferred that Rizal's intention was to impart such message to the Filipinos that violence in political action could be justifiable. Okay, and there's one famous incident in the play which was reproduced in many not literary, but movies, I think in cartoons, particularly in Tom and Jerry. That moment when, at the governor's orders, Wilhelm Tell must shoot an arrow from a distance of 70 paces through an apple placed on the head of his son, Walter. That's a very interesting fact. So, as I've said, this is a thesis book. The motive of the author in going into this study is, as he said in chapter 1, is that because Rizal's translation, according to him, of Wilhelm Tell from German to Spanish appears to have been a straightforward and unproblematic procedure. However, his translation of Wilhelm Tell from German to Tagalog produces certain difficulties that point to the existence of disjunctions and differential histories of political concepts. So these disjunctions, according to him, and differential histories are the subject of his research or his study, this book. And this, according to him, is the first comprehensive analysis of Rizal Schiller's translation and of its ideological implications for 19th century Tagalog political thought. Further, he also did this research to undertake a comparison of what may be termed the ideological structuration of the translation compared to that of the original work. Essentially because Rizal's work, the Guillermo Tell, was somewhat Tagalized, Filipinized, and put into the context of the Philippines in the 19th century from the context of Europe in that same time. Also, he wants to know how the work could have been translated into a language so distant from its socioeconomic context, and actually geographically so distant as well, and so alien from the distinctively German intellectual culture that had produced it. So, in the beginning of the book, he explained what the reason is why Rizal chose to translate Wilhelm Tell's work and not other works. So, according to Ramon, this is Guillermo Tell is Rizal's attempt to initiate a dialogue to the Filipinos in general, impart a message to the oppressed, which were us back in the 19th century, against the oppressor, the Spanish government, and the friars. Also, to impart such message in an altogether different nature, because Wilhelm Tell is a play. It's not a poem. It's not a story. It's a play. So, if you think about it, it truly is unique. If you are going to communicate such information to the mass through a play. Also, according to him, while doing Guillermo Tell, Rizal also was translating Hans Christian Andersen's works or stories. And he did Hans Christian Andersen's stories. He did the translation of Hans Christian Andersen's stories and Guillermo Tell in less than 3 months, from the beginning of September up to the middle of November of 1886 in the city of Leipzig. With that fact, we might presume that Rizal himself is a really intelligent person, but going into such work should have been really hard and difficult. So Rizal translated Schiller's work through these 3 steps. So 1 is to contemplate for the words that are going to be translated. 2 is to look for the corresponding word or expression in Tagalog. And 3 is to integrate the corresponding expression in Tagalog from the original language, which was German. Again, because he only had 3 months to do this, and he didn't just do this, he also did Hans Christian Andersen's works. He also translated those. There are inaccuracies, there were flaws in his translation. So I cited, according to the author Ramon Guillermo, Mariano Ponce and Pasiano Mercado Rizal said the translation was so-so, acceptable in their wordings, and they had their reasons. Their reasons was listed into examples. A couple of these examples are like, for example, in German, the message was, "I miss him." Rizal translated it into Tagalog, "Kinukulang ako sa kanya," which essentially, if we're going to translate back to English, means I am lacking of him, which is very far from the original intent of the expression in German. Another example is, in German, "Let us make an oath." Rizal translated this into "pabayaang sumpaan," which, if translated back in English, actually means allow the oath to be made, completely different from the original intention in the German text. Throughout the book, he proposed methods on how the analysis of the translation could be done. So through chapters 2 and chapter 5, the book was almost purely technical. A lot of concepts, a lot of theories were presented, and the flow of the narrative was literary concept into simplification of this concept, into abstraction of this concept for the possible automation and the process of itself. I had a hard time understanding every concepts and theories that were presented, but they were really good and they were properly cited. In fact, a lot of works were cited in the book. Special mention is Hadron Geremish Arbogast, Arbogast. I'm not sure if I'm reading her name correctly. You see, Hadrian Gerzemish Arbogast theory and methodology for the translation analysis was used as a primary inspirational literature that was used in the analysis of Rizal's translation. Oh, why inspirational? Because the author's goal, Ramon Guillermo, was not to assess the accuracy of the translation, but rather the comparison of ideological systems as they appear. So they have different motivation. Ramon Guillermo and Gerzemish Arbogast, but he did use Gerzemish Arbogast theories and methodologies on how to analyze properly a translation work. The methodology that was formulated in Ramon Guillermo's study was found. Actually, he found it, and I agree, was language independent, and as he said, it can be used in the analysis of the translation. So it's language and knowledge independent. Also, I think I can say that Ramon Guillermo successfully conveyed the process of how exactly he's going to analyze Rizal's translation of Schiller's work Wilhelm Tell. So he used vocabulary flow graphs, hapaksa legomenographs, and repetition matrices, which were all language independent and knowledge independent, to produce the detailed quantitative text profiles. So those were his methodologies, and every table, every graphs that were resulted from such procedures were properly illustrated and represented in the book. So this is still the first it's the first ever analysis of Rizal's translation of Wilhelm Tell. Ramon Guillermo himself admitted that his findings could be refuted in the future, or maybe even deepened and further improved. For me, I learned a lot of concept in his book. It's because it's facts, it's not meant to be entertaining, so it's somewhat difficult to read it, because these are facts, these are studies, these are actual data, so it's not meant to entertain. I think this book is meant for researchers or linguists, researchers of translation, and even engineering. For example, those who work in translating things and translating languages, they could check out this thesis, and this could truly help them in further advancing the study that Ramon Guillermo has started here. So for me, I'm not that interested in the book. I'm not really into literature in general. My course is engineering, but it was bearable. It was bearable to read. There's just some things that are really hard to understand, and I did read it twice or thrice. Some of the paragraphs I read even 4 times just to understand what is it saying here? What is it trying to convey? What does the author wants me to understand? And I also had a hard time understanding some of the words and some of the concepts and theories, but overall I got the picture of it. I think it was properly conveyed, that of what Ramon Guillermo wants to convey. I hope I gave you I gave the book a justice in reviewing this. That's all. Thank you.